Welcome to Sculpture Studios. All aboard to Tiverton in this project, where we're creating 21 steam trains for the Tiverton Art Trail. No, sorry, they're only called trains when they have carriages. In this case, we're just creating the steam engines themselves in the style of an old Tivy bumper. This iconic engine is a classic locomotive designed in the 1900s. Operational between 1934 and 1965, it's since been preserved as a long-lasting symbol of this Devonshire town's history. Our client for this job, and director of the Tiverton Museum, Pippa Griffiths, has asked us to create steam engines around a metre in length. Much like the art trails that we've made sculptures for in the past, we're going to be leaving these engines plain white so they can be decorated by local schools, sponsor companies and charity organisations. Creating 21 of these means we're going to need a mould, but first we need to ensure that the master pattern we're making isn't just the run-of-the-mill steam engine. This needs to be an accurate representation of the Tivy bumper itself. We've followed multiple blueprint designs and collaborated all the essential components so that we can make a simplified yet accurate version of the engine that could be created, moulded and easily painted. We're using a variety of materials to create the pattern: PVC tubing for the smooth cylinders like the boiler and the funnel, MDF boards for the flat areas, and a two-part fast cast mix in order to create the wheels. These have been modelled up first and a silicone mould is taken so that we can create wheels that are all identical. The fast cast mix you can see us using here takes about 2 or 3 minutes to set and is great for quick results and a fantastic chemical reaction to watch. When the fast cast is set, it has a plastic resin type rigidity that can still be cleaned up if needs be. We're using a bonding agent to adhere the wheels to the rest of the model. This doesn't need to be particularly strong at this point, as this is only the master pattern we're creating. This only needs to be strong enough for the mould to be made. When the whole thing is cast, the wheels will be made from fiberglass and integrated into the rest of the engine body. In the same fashion as the wheels, the coal on the back has been modelled, silicone moulded and replicated in fast cast. The only difference between the wheels and the coal is that because this is going to be relatively tricky to lay up in fiberglass inside the main mould, these will be individually cast and added after each engine's been created. The same applies for the buffers, or bumpers if you're American. They're an awkward shape to laminate with fiberglass and resin, so these are going to be moulded, replicated with fast cast as well, and then added separately later on. Now, if you're connected to us on Facebook or seen any of our homemade images lately, you might have already met a few mini members of the Sculpture Studios team. We have different regulars in from day to day and week to week, depending on the project and how many things we have going on in the studio. So you might need to stay tuned to see some of the other people that we have working with us on different occasions. Everyone, especially the boss here, are all true professionals, and you'll never see anything that might lead to ill productivity or an unprofessional nature. We've all learned our right to be here and be a cooperative member of the crew, and if there's a few things we pride ourselves on, it's sincerity and seriousness. With detailed projects like this, where a design needs to look a certain way, often a little R&D is needed. For the rivets, to save having to drill holes and apply domed upholstery pins or gluing domes on, Aden's doing some experiments now with different thicknesses of resin. This way the rivets can just be applied onto the marked locations as a small drop of resin, which can then be sanded over to round them off. It's imperative that we get the train looking as smart as possible at this stage, so that when a mould is made and the steam engine is replicated, as little cleaning up is required later on. Naturally, there'll always be work to do to ensure the quality is good enough for the client and good enough for painting, but we're trying to give this model the maximum amount of detail at this stage with the minimum potential problems later on. As well as looking great, we need to ensure the resin can reach all the tight spots, and we can back this gel coat resin up with glass fibre to ensure that all the casts are strong. Preparing the model for moulding now. This is going to be a 2-part mould, split straight down the middle of the steam engine, so it's a mirror image cast on either side. What we've done here is cut out a rough peripheral of the pattern shape from polystyrene, and with clay we're making up a halfway line that we're going to mould to for the first side. When we pour the rubber over the pattern, naturally gravity is going to take its course and the rubber will want to run off the job. So we use the clay to create a wall around the edge for the rubber to collect into. Here we're building up the layers of silicone rubber, starting with a liquid layer to get into all the detail, and proceeding to layers of a more buttery consistency to make the rubber insert durable. This mould will be creating a minimum of 21 casts, so we need to ensure the rubber is strong enough to handle that amount of manipulation. A gel coat is added once the rubber is set, and glass fibre is applied on top to form the jacket. This jacket will allow the rubber to retain the correct shape when casting. The process is repeated on the other side, and we leave the first half of the mould on when making the second, so we know it butts up correctly. The master pattern then needs to be extracted, so the fiberglass jackets are removed and the rubber inserts are peeled off. When not in use, the rubber needs to be placed back inside the jackets so they don't go baggy and they retain their correct shape. We're trimming off the excess fiberglass material so the mould is neat and safe to handle. We begin each cast with a gel coat for a smooth layer that reaches all the detail, and by going in with a white base gel coat, this is already on the way to being the white finish that we'll be after as an end result. In total we went over with about 4 ounces of glass fibre, so there's no risk of the trains breaking and they should be perfect for outside use. The nature of the engine design with all the corners and creases lends itself to being a little stronger as well, providing we get into all these corners with the gel coat and the glass fibre. All the casts are trimmed back to the gel coat line, and the two halves are joined on the inside with resin and glass fibre once they've been lined up. This seam line down the centre of the entire engine then needs to be filled and sanded back to a good finish, and all the additional extras like the coal and the buffers are bonded onto the cast. We're going over with 2K car body paints for a strong base layer, and we're giving each engine a solid white primer that'll be perfect for painting onto. So that the engines can be positioned onto concrete plinths that the clients have made, we're creating metal brackets to fit into the bottom of the casts. Using the same template for every train ensures that the positioning of the engines will be the same for every base. So that even the brackets are long lasting, we've given these an application of a red oxide and gone over with a hammerite paint to protect it from oxidization. We usually use local transport companies to deliver our sculptures to in and outside of the UK, but for this job, Pippa and Phil wanted to visit the studio personally to collect the final finished pieces. Not only is it great that a client wants to visit themselves, but Pippa's travelled all the way up from Tiverton in Devon to our studio in Essex, so we really appreciate the added effort. This has been a smooth project from the start, with great communication from our client, which is always an added bonus with any job. These were now ready to distribute to the various schools, local artists, companies and charities to decorate as they saw fit. Pippa explained that there would be a trail set up around Tiverton so that you could go on a hunt to find all the artwork sculptures. These sorts of trails are always a popular event, as it gets many different organisations on board and brings together different companies from around the town, and is a piece for the public as well. If you've seen our Snoopy trail or the Spitfires we made for King's Lynn in 2015, this works in very much the same way. The artists have free rein over how they want to decorate their sculptures, children and adults alike submitting their design ideas, and they provide some details about their inspiration for the artwork and a little background about their company or organisation. The locations of the sculptures are then dotted over a map, with some history about the town and the event included in the map brochure. For this particular trail, running from the 2nd of July to the 30th of October 2016, these engines will be out on display for the public to hunt for. So if you happen to be in the area of Tiverton between these dates, have a look around and see how many of our engines you can find. The All Aboard trail is currently trending on Twitter, so we managed to find some images on there, and Pippa also sent us through some images of the engines being decorated. So to return the favour of coming all the way up to visit us at the studio, Aden took a trip down to Devon himself to have a look at the finished pieces. It's great to see our work enjoyed by the public, and that something like this goes ahead. Many times we have inquiries about jobs that unfortunately never materialise, so it's fantastic when an idea like this is brought to life. Where these engines will go after the event we'll have to wait and see. Perhaps they'll be auctioned off for charity like the Spitfires, or perhaps put on display by the artists themselves. We'd like to thank Pippa Griffiths from the Tiverton Museum for coming to us with the project, quite literally, and we look forward to any future projects. Please feel free to leave any comments below, as they're always appreciated, and hit the subscribe button for our latest videos. You can like Sculpture Studios on Facebook or follow @Aden Hynes on Twitter, and for more of our work, visit sculpturestudios.co.uk. Thank you very much for watching.